Hey guys, it's Phil Kennard, and I'm back with another episode of Rentalpreneur Journeys. And I'm excited to bring you an amazing guest today. I actually just had the opportunity to meet him a little bit ago, but there's so much more that I want to get to know about Fouad. But first of all, am I pronouncing your name correctly? It's Fouad, right? That was like the one question I didn't ask you. I don't think anyone wants to listen to me, 30 minutes of talking about pronouncing your name wrong the whole time. I think you'd probably correct me pretty quickly. Fawad, you run a really interesting business, and we got to hear a little bit about your background. So your business is called The Owner Hosts, and you are both an owner and also a manager. You own 12 units and you manage 85 units. And so I want to get an understanding of, like, number one, that's a big business, right? I mean, own 12 units is impressive in its own right. Managing 85, you are a very highly successful, what I would call a scaled rentalpreneur. I want to dig into kind of what you did before and what some of the secret sauce that you've used to get to this stage in your rentalpreneur journey, because I know there are people that are listening. A lot of people like me, I have just a couple of units, and I don't ever expect to scale to hundreds. That's not my bag. My bag is tech entrepreneurship. But there are people that are listening, and I know they're thinking, man, he's closing in on that 100 unit mark. How do I get there? Right. Fawad, thanks for joining. Can you tell us a little bit about, like, what you did before The Owner Hosts?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thanks for all those kind words and careful what you wish for always, right? Like, no, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me and love adding value wherever I can. So I grew up as a banker, as a finance guy, background wise. I worked at a big regional bank. Actually, just yesterday, they were acquired, Comerica Bank. And
Awesome.
Comerica was founded in Detroit, then moved to Dallas back in 2006. And I worked I traveled a lot consulting other banks in the country. So we targeted banks that were 50 billion in assets and less, and we both helped them operationally by opening our back door as a bank and
Yep.
and kind of acting as a clearinghouse for those banks, competing with the Federal Reserve, and then we helped like fund and mergers and
Let me ask you a
acquisitions and all
question on
kinds.
that.
Yeah.
Were you a all arounder? Were you a finance guy? Were you an operations guy? Were you a sales guy? Or what was your specific kind of like strength when you were doing that?
So I was the quarterback. I was the lead on any project that we brought in. So
Got it.
if I brought it in, if this part needed to go to operations, that was via me. So I mean, I technically you'd put me on the sales side, but definitely, yeah, we were the gurus is what they called us, but
Yeah, it's funny,
not
right? Like,
not like today's Instagram guru.
the reality that you and I know, right? And a lot of rentalpreneurs, you're gonna learn this over time too, or any entrepreneur knows this. When you're the point person, you're always a sales guy.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Well, and I think as I've learned, as I've left corporate America and gotten into entrepreneurship, I think in entrepreneurship, everything is sales too, by the way, right? Like everything, you're always selling. You never know who you're talking to, and you always are representing your own brand. So that's even like I don't even wear my own clothes anymore. All I wear is my brand name all day long. My core values are on my shirt. Like there's always some sort of selling and NLP, like neuro linguistic programming that you're putting out there, right? So I
Right.
did bring a lot of amazing stuff that I learned in the corporate world. I fell in love with, when we first came along our nest egg, I was telling you the story. My wife is an attorney. She had her own office. And then in 2018, she really outpaced me on the wage side. So we were able to take way less dependence on the income that corporate America was giving me, which was really nice and very comfortable. But she was outpacing me by a lot. And then we got debt free. And then it was like, okay, well, we're good on the cash flow side. Now we
Right.
need to not pay taxes anymore. Now we need assets. Now we need does it make more sense to keep traveling and doing that for the comfort of a paycheck? Or does it make sense to really take all of the money that we're already making and saved up and start deploying it to turn it into real wealth? And so we went with that strategy. And so I started investing in real estate, knew nothing. I had no idea what I was doing. As a matter of fact, I'm just coming up. December will be year four. And I think I'm just getting out of my rookie season. Kind of like how college football, you have like 4 years of eligibility. It's almost kind of like that. Like I think now is like the time where people either like fall out or go into the pros. And so we've learned a lot. We transitioned from long-term rental slash coffee shop owner that was a kids play place as well into short-term rentals by a need. My daughter needed she needed a food allergist, and he's in
Okay.
California. We live in Detroit. We're gonna have to be there all the time. So I was like, oh hey, let's go buy one in Huntington Beach. And if we're gonna do it, let's just buy two in Scottsdale at the same time. Let's do that. And so we did that, and then we hired a real estate coach. We're like, "Holy crap, wait a minute. If we're gonna buy," like, the average at the time was $1.4 million on our purchase price. If we're gonna do this, we need some advice. So
Got it.
I hired a mentor, understood what I needed to understood, and then understood capital raising, and that we were gonna run out of our own money. It didn't matter how much money we made. If you're gonna keep buying real estate, you're gonna run out of your own money. And
So
so we
let me
just
pause you there for a second.
Yep,
So you're in a situation where you had access to capital initially, right? You had your own capital, and you guys were kind of outpacing. You know, if you buy any amount of anything, you're going to eventually run out of money, right? So you had to figure out how to make sure that you were tempering what you were buying with what you were cash flowing. And then one of the solutions there was to start sourcing capital and raising capital for the properties you were buying. Is that
yep,
right?
yep, that's exactly right.
And
That's
so
exactly right.
this is going to be a kind of stupid sounding question, but I'm going to ask it for maybe for myself or for anyone at home that's thinking, well, why didn't you just slow down on buying properties? Like, why was that? You know what I mean? Why do that as opposed to
It
starting to
was
raise?
that was so that's for sure. You could slowly scale, but I think, well, part of it was probably shiny object syndrome. In fairness, right? Like, if I had to really think about that, I got into a realist after I hired that mentor. I joined his mastermind, and by the way, I highly consider anybody joining a mastermind because it goes so far beyond the numbers, and you improve the all four verticals in your life: your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, all that, right? But
Sure.
that's a different conversation. When I joined this mastermind and you get around all these people that are thinking so much bigger, you're like, holy crap, that's addicting. It's kind of like if you walked into a drug house and you started taking the drugs, you'd be like, oh my God, this is addicting. I want more. I walked in and I was like, holy crap, like, I can do so much more. And W2 life never really set me up for that. I never really thought that big. I was just like, how do we become wealthy? Like, how do we just deploy our money? I didn't know I didn't really have a plan or a vision. I think I always
Mm,
relied on the corporate America to give us that structure. So when you
hmm,
leave corporate, then and you're like, you kind of, it takes you some time to build those rails and that foundation. And what are you really going to morph into? You think this is cool. It's like getting married, right? Hey, I'm attracted to this person. I'm going to date them, get to know them, and then I marry them or I don't. And it's almost the same in getting into entrepreneurship. I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to date it for a minute, and then you date until you finally get married. And that's where long-term rental and retail shops and all that led me to short-term rental. And then it was like,
got it.
well, can we build a brand out of this? And if we can build
Well,
a
this
brand,
is really
we need
interesting.
more
Like what
you.
you're saying is a really poignant point, which is that I think there are a lot of people that are listening right now. I remember I can put myself in those shoes 10 years ago, right? That are sitting there thinking, it's kind of the old joke, right? You know, and people that don't get this joke and be like, what is Phil talking about? But it's like, you know, steal underwear, question mark, profit. Right? It's like, where do you like how do you turn this weird activity, whatever it
Yeah.
is, into profit? It doesn't make any sense, right? And so people think get Airbnb, get short-term rental, question mark, question mark, question mark. Okay, now I've hit my goals. Well, have you defined your goals?
Right.
Have you set up all the different steps between where you are and where you want to go? And I think that is one of the biggest. I don't want to call it a failing because I don't think it's a failing. I think as a rentalpreneur, the reality is there's a bunch of tactical things you can do that just getting in the game, like if you just get in the game today, next month, as long as you've like a deal that has good fundamentals, you are starting to either cash flow or build equity or even just hone your skills as a manager and a
Yep.
host. All those things have value, but they all get a lot better when you have a plan.
No doubt. No
Right?
doubt
Like,
about
so
it.
I think it's so even if you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh, wow, I don't have a plan," like, wow, Fawad's got this whole strategy and he's built, you know, this essentially almost 100 units under management. He had to get the plan in place before he could do that. But he still got in before he had the plan, which maybe he would do that a little differently today, but he got in before he had the plan because sometimes you have to start taking action before you know what the right questions are to even ask,
Yeah. No
right?
doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And we did. And then, you know, once as we kept adding on, we realized, holy crap, I think we're doing really good. And people were asking me, hey, will you manage my properties? I was like, no, 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 I don't really have any appetite for that. I'm growing my real estate portfolio and I'm not paying taxes anymore. And then you realize, okay, but you're turning down cash flow. right?
Hmm.
And then because you stopped listening to the Instagram guru that said, hey, you can make 18% cash on cash every single time you step up to the plate in the short-term rental space. And you're like, that not if you own the real estate, not if like, I mean, not if you really understand and you're in this for a long time. I mean, it's a process. And so it was like, okay, well, then how do we then turn this into a cash flowing business consistently and all the time? And are we good enough to do that? And so it was like, yes, yes,
Hmm.
and yes. So then, as I started helping other people and consulting people, taking kind of like my real skill set from my corporate days, consulting other short term rental companies, I acquired one and I kept the owner of that on as my partner and my director of operations in our new entity. Now I don't have to be the operations guy, which I'm not good at. Now, frankly, I was not good at it in corporate either. That's why I was a sales guy, right? I mean, and so now I get to do what I do, which is help bring them strategically, build out the process, and add any other value that I can. But I don't have to touch it. I don't have to break it myself, you know. And so it's morphed and it's been a lot of fun. What I've but no doubt about it in this space, and I think this is the most important thing in the short-term rental space. When you get into this, you gotta understand this is an absolute long-term game. And if you're
Hmm.
owning the real estate, that decision is more important than the short-term rental decision. Because if you make a bad real estate decision, you cannot make enough money on the short-term rental side to overcome that bad purchase. You just
That's
can't.
really interesting.
Just won't happen.
I want to unpack a couple things. I think that point, I want to talk about real estate fundamentals and how they should impact kind of which direction you go in short term rentals if you're going to be an owner or a manager. That's a really important topic that I even want more thought on, right? Like I have never managed other people's short term rentals. I've just run my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
Yep.
hear your thoughts on that. But before we get into that, you talked about some of the things that you weren't good at, like the
Mhm.
operation side. Guilty as charged also, right? I'm more of a product strategy sales guy in my life than I am, and I mean I'm also a software developer than I am an operations guy. So I know we're simpatico on that. Um, what was your was is your strongest skill that you took from your prior life, your prior work, and brought into STR? Like, what's your secret sauce that helped you succeed?
I would think I would say it was just my willingness to learn, my willingness to join groups with people that had been there and done that, and just go
Hmm.
ask the question. Go ask a question. Look, if people fall in love with 75 hard and they learn how to hit the gym really quickly, right? And so I think you got to do the same thing with your business, and you just got to go learn. And then sometimes you gotta have an appetite to make some mistakes, not big mistakes, not crippling mistakes, but you've got to just be willing to go. And we read, I'm sure you read all the same books that I read, and perfection is the enemy and all of that, right? So like you just sometimes action breeds. And if you think about like something like the restaurant industry, right?
Sure.
Think about the restaurant industry. It's very much akin to the hospitality industry in that, but most importantly, if there was a perfect, then all restaurants would be the same. But the truth is they're not,
Hmm.
right? And even the burger chains, this one has smoothies, this one has juices, and then this one
Right.
has Cajun
Right.
fries, this one has sweet potato fries. So everything, it's about who are you and are you acting like that? And then did you consistently act like that? And if you consistently acted like that, then the people that liked you came to you, and the people that didn't like you didn't come to you. They went to where they liked, and that was good. It was good for everybody. And I always tell the story. There's a coffee shop about 2 miles from my house, okay? And it was failing. It was brand new, it was a year and a half old, and it was failing. It was dead. It was prime location, but it was dead. This other one came literally and opened right next door to it about a year and a half ago. That one was such a massive hit with such a long line out the door all the time that the overflow went to the dead one.
That is
And
insult to injury.
well, no, they all came. And so they both survived and they both thrived because rather than competition, like sometimes that variation is good because people want this and people want that. And I think that's really important. I think
That's
it's
really
just
interesting. So
important to
let
go.
me ask you a question. So first of all, if and I think you're probably the same way that I'm in this. The reason why I say that is because if people were using my product or service solely because they couldn't get the one that they actually wanted, look. I'd be happy that people use my product or service, but I'd be very frustrated with the offering that I had, and I would question myself and say, what is that guy doing that I'm not doing? Right? What is that company doing that I'm not doing? Let me ask you, like in that scenario, what was the second coffee shop doing that the first one wasn't doing that was causing that success?
So the space, it was size, and it was honestly, it was just marketing. It was just marketing. The way they were on social media, that the way that they hit the market really well, the community really well. We live in a pretty villagey community, I would say. And so like, they chamber of commerce. They showed up to places. They were bringing samples to places. They were doing all these things, but the one just nobody ever found it. Nobody ever went.
Did the
Nobody
other
they didn't
shop learn some lessons from the one that was succeeding, or did they just take the overflow?
I think they just took the overflow. And
I
and and
love it.
honestly, they're crushing it because of that too, by
They
the way,
rode they rode the wave. They rode the
Well,
wave all the
yeah,
way
because
there.
because people finally came in, and when they came in, they fell in love. And then when they fell in love, it was like, "Oh, cool. Well, you didn't market to me." So it took their time to customer, time to revenue, probably cost, customer cost was really tough, all that stuff. But they finally thrived. And so I think that's important. I think people just need to, the message I want to share with that, to answer your question directly, is just go. There's no right way to do it. Just understand what you wanna do. To your point, start with the end in mind and then
Mm.
break that down. Bring it back. This is where I'm gonna be in 3 years, and what do I gotta be in 2 years, and this is where I gotta be in 2 years, where do I gotta be in 1 year, and if that's where I gotta be in 1 year, then what do I gotta do in the next 8 months, and then the next 4 months, and that's the direction. Like, these are gonna form these questions are gonna form the habits of your daily life that stack, and you're getting some of those days, a lot of those days are gonna suck early on, by the way, and you gotta be willing to embrace the suck. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I think that's really there's a lot of, veracity in that. I think one thing that people hold themselves very accountable. Well, I shouldn't say necessarily accountable, but they view themselves critically if they plan and then they fail to achieve their plan. I think one thing that, you know, maybe you think like this is how I think. One of the benefits of planning, of creating like a long-term plan, is exactly what you just said. It's not so that you always end up at that destination. It's actually so that you think about the individual steps you take and you can back into like, what is the next step? What is the step in the right direction? Like, not that that's going to get you all the way there. You may end up starting here, right? Like your plan was to start a coffee shop and a play place, and maybe you've continued to grow those, and maybe those are really successful today. I don't know the story on that, right? But that helped get you to where you wanted to go, and that helped you discover success within short-term rentals. Like, so it's one step in front of the other,
No
and,
doubt.
you're asking yourself the right questions
Yeah.
on a daily basis to succeed,
Yep.
you know?
For sure. Totally agree.
So let me ask this, right? So, okay, so now we're at the point in your journey where you are now bringing capital in, and so are you raising capital from the mastermind group, or how did you first start raising capital?
Started with family. We tried it there. Then it morphed into the mastermind, not intentionally, just kind of went there and started talking to people, and everybody's like, "Oh, I like it. How do I invest?" I was like, "Oh, really?" And something kind of dawned on me is you don't actually have to ask for capital. You just tell people what you do. And then people that want to invest, they just start saying, like, "Hey, how do I invest in that? Can I do that too?" It's like, "Sure you can. You want to just do it together?" Like, and it just kind of morphs, right? So it happened there, and then other real estate investor groups, wherever it might be. And then, we've gotten it via social media. We've gotten it in a lot of places now, but that's probably been the easiest epiphany that I've learned is like, if there's a deal, it'll always find money. Go find the deal. It'll find money.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. There's an old adage that one of my investors told me many years ago. Smart guy. He said, "If you want advice, ask for money, and if you want money, ask for advice." I think people really like to see your curiosity and your appetite and your hunger to work on something. So if you go to someone and say, "Hey, I want you to take a look at this deal I'm working on," and you pull out the numbers and you start working through it, they'll sell themselves on it if it's a good deal, right? You don't have to pitch them necessarily. You just need to show them that you're really thinking about it and you're thinking about it the right way, you know? Yeah. So you started raising money. Did you have it structured in such a way where you would have a particular deal in mind and you'd raise capital for that particular deal?
Yep. We started that way. We started just thinking like 50-50, right? Like that was the easy way. You bring the money to the table, I'll do all the work, and like we'll just split everything 50-50. Kind of like, again, to the restaurant, the chef that wants to open a restaurant can't find
Right.
the money. So he goes to somebody, says, "Hey, you bring the money, I'll do the work, we'll be 50-50."
Right, right,
So what
right.
we kind of took that same model, but then we realized as we learned real estate more, we realized that people were getting into short-term rental industry. They wanted tax breaks. There were other things that were important. So like our most recent deal, our partner brought all the money to the table. We bought a house, we tore it down, we rebuilt a new one. And then on the refinance, he got paid back. And then he keeps 20%, we get 80%, but he got 100% of the cost segregation benefits.
Right.
We got
So
100% of the
he's looking for the tax
Airbnb.
benefit.
That's it. And we get the Airbnb profit. So the way I was looking at it is the way we brought this one in, we looked at it and we said, boy, the numbers are going to be tight. Like this thing is probably going to break even. Honestly, we're probably not going to make a lot of Airbnb profit out of this thing. However, I'm getting 80% of the asset, right? And so we're going to operate this thing for minimum 5 years because we're giving him a cost segregation benefit. So we're probably going to work about 5 years, and then we're going to have this, today $2.2 million house. In 5 years, it'll probably be 2 point guess, have mortgage paid down. So I have over $1 million of equity in there.
Right.
And then when we have over 1 million of equity in there, and we got 800K over the course of 5 years, that's over $100,000 a year that we've earned on that thing. If all we did was manage this thing and own no equity, we'd get 15%. We'd get that today, and that could be good. But if we can stack a lot of these nuggets, and then we can withstand the time of waiting 5 to 7 years to actually make asset exits, we can get paid way more than the actual margins of the management company.
That's really interesting. So as you're thinking about, your portfolio is divided kind of like 6 to 1 managed to own,
Yep.
right? Let's Obviously there's additional steps required to own a property, right? And you need to get the capital together, you got to build a deal, etc. How do you guys like do you want the ratio to be like 6 to 1? Would you rather own everything? Or are you managing because it helps you get to cash flow faster?
Well, it definitely helps us get to cash flow faster. I mean, I think ultimately the idea is build to sell. I mean, what I've learned is you build any company you build. If you're going to build a company, you got to build it with enterprise value and an idea to sell it. And if you're not building it to sell, then ultimately you're probably leaving some meat on the bone.
Mm,
Like when I started building this to sell it, it was like, okay, you know what? We may never sell it, but we're going to build it way bigger than we ever thought of. We're going to build it efficiently. We're going to build it very cleanly. We're getting advice from private equity companies. We're getting advice from all these other people that have done what we're doing so that we're going about this with an approach of longevity
mm.
or quick exit, right? But either way, it helps with that approach. So the goal is to sell in 5 years. That's what I tell everybody. But I don't know that I'll ever sell. My boys are 10 and 9. My daughter's 6. The idea would be ideally one of them will just merge right in and take the company over at some point, right? So that's kind of I'm kind of one of those nut jobs that tells my kids, hey, you're only going to college if you're like passionate about being a surgeon or an attorney or a tax strategist. Otherwise, you're just going to join masterminds and you're going to
Right.
learn how to do real estate really young. Like, I
I
mean,
hear
that's
that.
you know, so I don't know if that
So
answers. I hope that
what
answers
so
the
what
question.
No,
But
that definitely answers the question. I mean, it's you're looking at your the answer to the question. I think essentially, make sure I understand is like you're deciding you're based off of where you want the business to go. You want to build an outcome focused, exit focused business because that helps you get the fundamentals of the business right. That
yep,
doesn't mean you're actually going to sell it in 5 years, but you want to build a business that is saleable in 5 years because that's a concrete goal. And that helps you. It's like a mission statement for your business. That's not the mission, obviously, but it's like having a mission statement for the
yeah.
business. So that means as you're making decisions, like, should we raise capital and get this deal done versus should I bring on more properties as management clients, etc. You always have a guiding principle because you want to build a business that's exit ready in 5 years, regardless of whether or not you make that exit.
Yeah, because even, for instance, if we sell the management company, so like, hey, by the way, like, I mean, one of the things, like, to make this applicable too, like, let's just say you're a listener here that's got 10 or less properties. By the way, you still should absolutely build your own rental management company and manage all of your companies. And you need to have contracts with your LLCs that own your real estate, right? I mean, I think that's really, really important. So for me, the reason I make that point is for
Mm,
us, my properties that I own, each, they're under, their LLCs, and then they hire my management company. So if we sell our management contracts, we're selling the management contract to this property, but we own these properties. We may or may not decide to
mm.
sell these properties at some point, but bottom line is we're still going to own the real estate. And I think that's really important because remember, in my opinion, there's a couple of reasons that you buy short-term rentals, and it's not for any other reason other than you know how to execute the burst strategy really well. You know how to build homes. Like the last three we built, we're building number four now. We've learned how to create enough value in these that we can get all of our money back out. So if we have high debt payments, it's okay. We're good. We know if we break even, we're not worried about it. We have no
Right.
money in this deal. The velocity of our capital has continued on, right? So you buy because you know the burst strategy. You buy because you want a lifestyle asset and you're a W-2 income earner and you can't take advantage of real estate professional tax status. So instead, the only asset class that allows that, you buy a short-term rental and you use that for accelerated depreciation, right?
Right.
But you don't
Are you talking
buy
about
these
through a cost seg specifically?
through cost tags, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you just don't buy a short-term rental because you say, I have a bunch of capital and I can either buy a short-term rental or a strip center. No, go buy the strip center. Go buy the storage unit, right? If your
Right.
only goal is cash flowing real estate, you should go that route, not something that needs this whole like hospitality and business and water heaters at night and toilets at 2 a.m. and all these things that come along with the hospitality industry. You don't just buy those kinds of properties and those kinds of as investments, without having these larger specified goals of growth, tax strategies, all these
Right.
things.
So I have so many questions. I mean, so the first thing I want to do before we even move on to, because I have like personal questions for you about that, but let's tell everyone that's listening what a cost seg is, right? You want to just give a quick overview? It seems like this thing you've done a lot.
Yeah,
I'm looking at doing one right now, right? And I've gotten some guidance from some of my mentors on how to do that. But I want to hear you tell the rentalpreneurs that are listening, what is a
for
cost
sure.
seg and why do people do it?
Large disclaimer for both me and for you. I'm not the CPA. So
Give it
absolutely
high
whatever
level,
I
like just
say,
what's the
yeah,
general benefit
whatever
of
I
it?
say, go verify it with your
Don't
CPA.
call
And
Fouad and sue him because
no
he's
doubt.
he's not
And
a
yeah.
CPA.
So
He's
what it
not
does,
he's
what it
not
does,
he's not a financial, well, he is a financial professional, but
yeah.
he's going to tell you from his experience what the benefit
Yeah.
of a cost seg is.
So any real estate you own, including your own residence, if you look at your tax returns, you'll see a line for depreciation on there. You can depreciate all of your single family residence. You depreciate over the course of 27 and a half years. So let's say you buy a property for 200 and what would that be? 27 you buy it for uh you know well, whatever, a
Let's
million
let's get a
dollars
round number.
a
You
million
buy it for a
dollars and
million bucks.
you divide that by 27 and a half years, and that's the amount of depreciation you get on your tax return every year, which is a low number when you consider like relative to the purchase price, right? In real estate, so the tax code, the IRS says if you buy rental properties are passive income, and as since you are somebody that earns active income in a W-2 fashion, you can't use a loss in your passive investments to offset the income of your active income, the W-2s. And so what you do, the only asset class that has the exception for that, if you're not a real estate professional, you can buy a short-term rental. They consider those active investments, not passive investments,
Right.
and you can accelerate the depreciation. Instead of it being 27 and a half years, they do this whole formula. You hire an engineering company, but on average, it comes out to be about 30 to 35% of the purchase price of the home on average, right? Give or take the market. And then also like the one of the biggest factors there is land. Land's not depreciable. So are you right on the ocean? Because your land probably has a big value chunk there. So that's not very good for a cost segregation study. Because if you bought it for a million and now it's worth 2 million, but the land is still worth a million, you only have $1 million of asset
That
you
you
can
can actually
accelerate
accelerate the
some
depreciation
depreciation.
of.
But if it's 2 million and your land is only worth 400,000, well, you got 1.6 million, you can pull some acceleration on. It's not dollar for dollar there, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, again, so it's about 30%. Let's say you buy $1 million property, you can accelerate $333,000 on average or so into year one to depreciate against your W-2 income. So now you're going to reduce your tax nugget. So now you still got to write a check, right? But instead of that check going to Uncle Sam, that check is going to your company, your LLC, and that LLC is buying real estate that your kids are going to benefit from, that you might benefit from, but for sure your kids will, right? You're
Yeah.
still writing the check. Let's not, we don't want to minimize the fact that the money is still coming out, but you own it and your assets and all that. And by the way, people call this the STR, the short-term rental loophole. It's not a loophole. Like, this is given to you by the IRS. It's in the code. All you
Yeah,
have to do
this
is
is
go
the point,
understand.
right? Like
Just go
this is the
understand the
tax
IRS.
benefit, and I think a lot
That's
of
it.
people don't know that. They hear
No
it's
doubt.
very common to hear, "Oh, I'm getting an STR for the tax reason," and people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I do want to say you need to give yourself a little more credit in terms of being able to explain tax concepts because that was incredibly helpful. It was a very concise way of
Thank you.
explaining it, what the benefit of the cost segregation is, and the people hear if you hear someone say cost seg study, that's when you hire a firm to come actually look at what can be depreciated. So that was super super helpful, and I think for anyone listening, at a minimum, you now know this is a potential benefit. So in addition to all the the wealth building and the potential cash flowing, and if you're someone that's interested in hospitality, getting into it for those reasons too, the lifestyle
Yep.
change, the ability. This is a huge benefit if you're a W-2 earner,
Yep.
right? This is something that
Big
you can
time.
really use to offset income, and it's a huge value. And so, especially if you're going to be buying a property and then you expect to exit that property within a couple of years or several years, being able to accelerate the depreciation so you can take advantage of all the depreciation before the property changes hands, like that's a real benefit.
It really is. It really is. And if I knew then what I know now kind of thing, right? Like, I would have never invested in my 401k. I would have put all my money into real estate. Or what I would have done is understood there are things called self-directed IRAs, and I would have contributed to those instead early on, because self-directed IRAs don't have to be like stock funds and mutual funds. You can actually go buy real estate with those. And so, like, when I left corporate America, I took my few hundred thousand and I moved it out of my 401k, put it all in a self-directed, and I own apartment buildings with those now,
Right.
right? So
Right.
can't take the profit on those, just like a retirement fund, just like all that. It's all sitting in there. But the good news is I know that this thing is growing, and just like then when I retire, I'm gonna have a big asset that's available for me. That's gonna give a lot of tax benefits too. So
That's super helpful information, right? It's like, just this goes back to the plan. This goes back
yep,
to thinking about like what are the steps that you need to take. And again, you might not follow everyone, but if you think about where you want to be and you work backwards from those to where you are today, that helps you make some of those tactical
no
decisions.
doubt.
That's why you choose
No
an
doubt.
overarching plan. Let's change gears for a second. I want to ask you a question about your shirt. So you told me that you're this is was that related to your brand in some way? Is that something
So
that's
so this
important?
is like my core values: health, peace, love, and travel. And I did make them my brand values, right? So I think that's really important. And it's kind of a spin-off of, if you read the book Think and Grow Rich, and it's a kind of a spin-off of faith, finance, fitness, and family. And I just went down this when went down this rabbit hole thought process. And who doesn't want good health? Right? Like, ask anybody whether they're in good health or not. They'll all tell you they all want good health. Peace. Everybody wants peace. Peace and
Well, hold on.
you know,
We had. Wait, I got to ask you. We're talking about each one of these, man. These are
let's
important.
go. Let's go.
So I like to think of things. You probably remember everyone remembers this from intro to psychology. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it starts at the top, and as you don't think about the lower needs until you satisfy the ones at the top, right? Because if you're hungry, you can't think about travel, for example, right? You got to get the easy ones. And do you? Because when I think about what you have on your shirt, it actually feels like they're in a pyramid where you got to have health before you can enjoy anything else.
All of it.
Right.
It's right here on my desk. I mean, I'll show you this. This is a Health Warrior Award that I won at my most recent mastermind, right? Like, I think it's really important. I'm on day, I don't know, 12 or 13 of 75 hard today. My boys, my toddler boys are 10 and 9. They just finished 75 hard. I think in order for you I mean, John Madsen is one of the largest online personal trainers and fitness mindset guys in the world. And if you follow him, he's not for everybody, for sure. He's a little brash and
Sure.
a little rough, right?
Right.
But he says one thing. He says, if you're making millions of dollars a year and you get out of your G wagon, but you can't see your feet over your belly,
Yeah. Right.
I mean, what are we talking about? And
Right.
and that hit me because I haven't always been in the best shape of my life. I say now I'm as old as I've ever been, but I'm as young as I've ever felt. I'm in the
I
best
love
shape of my
that.
life.
I love that.
And I think it's really, really important to stack those because look, in entrepreneurship, we talked about it, embrace the suck. There are a lot of really difficult days, like a lot of them, right, guys? Like, you got to stack days and sometimes years before you really feel that win.
Yeah.
And the one thing you can control every single day is your health. And that one you can always stack a brick. You can always stack a brick. You can always stack a brick, right? And so I just, you've gotta take care of your health. Gotta take care of your health. There's too many distractions in the world nowadays to not
You have to center, right? You got it, because the thing is, nothing else matters. You can't enjoy anything else in life. You can't achieve the things that you want. You can't protect the people that you want if you don't take care of yourself, right? Okay, let's go to the
100%.
next one. What is peace? Is this your inner peace? Is it world peace? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I think to each the it's it that answer may differ from each, but I think that comes back to its inner peace, right? Like what makes you happy, what finds you peace, and that's what you got to find in life, and you gotta, you know, you've got to be able you get the we get the problems that we ask for,
Mm,
you know what I mean, and so if you hate your life, if you're struggling, change it. That
yeah,
I mean, that's on you, you know what I mean? And so we talk a lot we talk to our kids about this a lot. E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. There are events every single day in your life that you were not planning on, right? Like you got a flat tire, there's a chicken dead in your backyard, there's whatever it might be. You got an event, there's an event, and you have no control over that event that's happening. What's your response? Because your response will dictate the outcome. It is
that's the
100% up
thing
to
you
your
can
response,
control, right?
right?
You can't control what
That's
life is going to throw at you. What you can control is what you're going to
that's
do
it.
about it. And you having that inner peace, you training yourself to have that inner peace is what can keep you on track.
1000%. 1000%.
Okay, now let's talk about love.
Yep.
What
Got
love?
lead with love, man. So when I had my coffee shop with the kids play place, it was a place called Detroit Kid City. There's something I learned, and it was watching the black kids, the white kids, the Asian kids, the Middle Eastern kids, the Jewish kids, watching all the kids playing with each other. They didn't give a damn what the other one looked like. They didn't care about any of that. They led with love.
Yeah,
And we're born with love from God, and we come into this world, and then there's so many things around us that create self-taught hate.
yeah.
So you gotta love, man. You just gotta lead with love. And I'll tell you, any problems you have, always lead with love. You got a problem with somebody, get on the phone with them, get face to face with them, lead with love. I promise you that problem goes away quick, right? When you lead with love, everybody wants to be loved. Everybody
Mm.
desires love. Everybody has love. Everybody's built with love. And if we led with that, you know, changes the world.
I think
So
that's really true. You said something a minute ago. I don't want to misquote you on it, but you said something kind of like we choose our own problems, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that's really poignant. If you look at different cultures, different philosophies, everything from physics to Christian religion to in Christian religion, it's out of the heart of the issues of life, right? And it's self-fulfilling prophecy in Western psychology, right? It's karma and ki in Asian and Eastern psychology and metaphysics. There's always this concept that like you put into the universe a thing, the universe responds to it and gives you a reflection of that thing back, right? And then you so it's like when you see things happening, you got to ask yourself, why does this keep happening in this way? Where's that coming from? And the answer a lot of times is, I'm not saying you're creating it, but you're either reflecting something or you're manifesting something, or the way that you're interacting with the world. You might not be controlling, maybe that your peace or your love might not be influencing the world in the way that you want. So you get that love and peace back.
100%, 100%.
And now my favorite one, travel. Okay, now let's
Travel.
talk about it. Where are we going? What are we
So
doing? What's travel?
the easy part there, right, is just travel, go have fun. But I mean, realistically, I mean, where that comes from for me, what it derives when what it feels like, kind of, I hate the whole world of passports and borders and territories and countries, and I get it. So don't take me wrong, I totally get it, right? But God, none of us chose where we were born. You know what I mean? We were just put here. And it wasn't, and so for me, travel into the hearts of other people's worlds, understand not just the ocean in California. Why don't you go inland a little bit? Why don't you go to Compton and South Central? Why don't you see the struggles of some of the people? Why don't you go to some of the, well, why do why is Silicon Valley what it is? Well, go there, see what's making them so successful. Go learn that. Go to all the different countries of the world. Go to Nicaragua and Haiti, where there's a lot of, man, I mean, our problems, and I look outside and I got weeds in my lawn. It's like, Okay, cares? Like,
Yeah.
tell you who doesn't care, the people of Palestine don't care right now. Like, they don't care about the weeds in my lawn, right? Like,
Right.
and so, you gotta travel into the heart of other into the world of other people. You gotta travel. You've got to see, what foods are out there. What am I missing? I'm Lebanese, and my parents raised me with a very Lebanese culture, and I'm so grateful for that. But I was first generation born in America, and
Mm.
so I get to take the beauty of that, and I get to merge it with the beauty of what I've learned in America, and I get to give the best of that world to my kids. I don't have to just say, "Because I'm from here, this is how it," right? It's let's take from this place. And hey, one time, remember when when we went to Seattle, we came back thinking, what would Seattle do? Because the culture of that city was really fantastic to us, right? And if you went to other places, whether it's South Africa or where Nelson Mandela, and you bring all that back to your kids, and you give your so traveling to bring back and become wholesome of the whole world, which God put us here. It's our oyster. We gotta go wrap it all up. So, anyways, that's my corniness for the day, guys.
No, dude, that is beautiful. And look, the reality is you have to have your own personal mission. I can't say you have to. You don't have to have anything. You can do whatever you want, right? But having your own personal mission makes it a little bit easier to make those decisions every day that get you closer and closer to
Yep.
where you want to end up.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and by the way, all those things make you better in both your personal life and your business life, right?
Yeah,
Like when you're accommodating and accustoming and understanding of all, it makes you better at being a father, a parent, a fitness guy. Better makes you better at the negotiation table. Makes you better with the seller of a distressed property. It makes you better with how do we the contractor that's doing the work to turn your distressed property into a luxury STR. It makes you better with all those things around you, and that's why all that stuff is so important.
I think that's beautiful. I love that. So I have one more question for you. I appreciate you staying a little longer and
No
chatting more.
problem.
This is obviously I'm interested in all the stuff that you're saying here and your journey. I think people are going to find it really inspiring because of your resilience and your ability to kind of like keep evolving and keep learning as you grow and keep trying to improve yourself. The
Yeah.
question that I have for you is if you could go back and tell the original Fawad before you started investing, before you became a rentalpreneur, one piece of advice. What piece of advice would you give that?
Go get into real estate a lot younger. Just go buy real estate a lot younger. Go at least go learn about real estate a lot younger, right? Join a mastermind, really start to learn. And I had opportunities in my 20s, I passed them up. I had opportunities in my 30s, I passed them up. Well, it
Mm.
was my late 30s when I finally did it. And you know, go just go ask a broker to walk in their shoes for a day. Go ask somebody, an investor, to walk in their shoes for a day. Just go really understand how people got in. And the sooner you begin, when I say you can leave your W-2 job early, doesn't mean you have to leave tomorrow or in a year. But if you're in your 20s or your 30s, you can leave at 45 or 50. You don't have to wait till you're 62.
That's beautiful, man. I appreciate you sharing that advice. I think that is excellent guidance and even giving a little tip on how to do it. You don't have to just go write a check. Go follow, do a ride along with someone that's in the space, get inspired, learn from them. They will, and if you lead that with love and you lead that with peace, they're going to help you get into your first real estate deal. Uh,
1000%.
well, thank you so much for sharing your rentalpreneur journey. I certainly found it inspiring. I feel like I got to go work out right now. I really appreciate it, man. If people want to learn more about you, more about the owner hosts, how do they get in touch with you? How do they learn about what you're up to?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, my first name, FOUAD_Airbnb. You can go to theownerhost.com, fill out a submission form. We're always glad to jump on a call, see if we're the right fit for you, if we can advise you. Even if it's not for us to help you out, if it's just for us to give you a little bit of advice to get you started, just hit us up. We'd love to help.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. We'll see you all in the next Rentalpreneur Journeys. And if you're interested in learning more about how you can start your Rentalpreneur journey and kick it off the right way, you should take a look at Futurestay. Futurestay helps rentalpreneurs get started the right way. In about 6 minutes, we connect right to your Airbnb account. We optimize it for you. We get you started with direct bookings with your own website. And we make it as easy as possible to start making more money with your short term rental. We wish you the best on your rentalpreneur journey, and we'll see you all next time.